They told us it was done. They claimed the hotel tape was the end. But what occurred in that courtroom nobody was ready for. Chrissy didn't weep. She didn't deny. She looked the judge directly in the eye and spoke the words that entire room cease. Breathing. It wasn't just a one-time thing. I was in love with Camron. Dead stillness. Jim didn't blink, didn't move, simply gazed at her like he was witnessing a stranger wear his fiancé's flesh. Mama Jones yelled. The judge dropped his pen, and Camron leaned back in the corner, arms crossed, as if he already knew what she was going to say. This wasn't a leak. This wasn't reality TV. This was a bomb. And Chrissy pushed the pin herself. There were no cameras, no screenplay second take, simply raw, messy courtroom reality. And what came next? 2 additional clips, a locked email thread, and a voicemail where Chrissy begs Mona Scott to make the film disappear. But it's too late because the truth isn't just out. It's playing in 4K. And believe me, what she admits next will transform everything you thought you knew. Return to that courtroom, back to that moment when Chrissy stepped up, hands quivering, mascara streaked, lips shaking. The court had just asked her a straightforward question under oath. Miss Lampin, is there anything further you like to divulge before we proceed with the evidence? Nobody expected her to respond. Chrissy adjusted the microphone, cleared her throat, looked across at Jim, and made a revelation so raw and unexpected that it left half the audience petrified. It wasn't just emotional. It wasn't just a mistake. I was in a relationship with Camron, not a hookup or a fling, but a full-fledged behind-the-scenes late-night voicemails, burner phone, erase those messages kind of relationship. And she said, it like she was done hiding, like the guilt wasn't eating her anymore because it had ate everything else. Jim, he didn't utter a word. He just sat there like someone unplugged the guy completely. 1 minute he was Jim Jones, the Harlem Kingpin, the Dipset legend, the devoted ride or die. The next he was simply some guy in a courtroom getting cooked by the lady he built a complete business on. You could hear a pin drop, even the court clerk. Camron sat 2 rows behind, sunglasses on indoors, head slightly cocked, as if he knew this moment was coming. Maybe he did. Maybe this was the plan all along. Let us not pretend this come out of nowhere. The signals were there. That USB clip Cam published last month wasn't just a sneak look. It was a declaration of war. Chrissy in a sweatshirt sneaks into the Moran Hotel at 9:13 p.m. Reggie unlocking the door. Wine glasses, slow music, pillow conversation about drowning in someone else's life. But what made the internet lose its head wasn't the sights. It was the voice of Chrissy stating, Jim still believes I met my he's so easy. Fast forward to today, and we're finding that it wasn't even Reggie in the hotel, but Camron. Ex-Dipet brother, his old buddy, the man who once toasted at their engagement dinner. And Chrissy simply sat there on the stand telling the world she was with him. The courtroom didn't explode. It froze. Mama Jones sprang up so quickly, security had to hold both her arms. She was shrieking wild-eyed, you snake, you wrecked my son. Chrissy didn't flinch. She didn't even weep. She looked exhausted, not sad, not regretful, just done. She informed the judge she was ready to offer her own proof screenshots. Trip logs, images from burner phones merely to corroborate what Cam already spilled was only the surface. She termed it the unfinished truth, as if this was a narrative she was now ready to tell Jim's lawyer, who had been silent the entire time, stood up, moved toward the mic, and said, Your Honor, based on this new admission, we'd like to file an immediate motion for emotional fraud. Abuse and brand destruction. Let's speak about that. This wasn't simply a cheating issue. It was a business disaster because the whole Jim and Chrissy's machine wasn't simply constructed on love. It was monetized through VH1 specials, spin-offs, brand partnerships, podcast cameos, apparel, wedding rumors that sold out interviews like tickets. And now it's all falling. Why? Because the foundation was false since the lady Jim called his day one was leaking secrets to his adversary under oath in court on video. So how did we get here? Insiders claim it didn't start with Reggie or Cam. It started with Chrissy felt marginalized. and she wanted greater influence over the story and authority in the company. She allegedly told producers, "I'm not here to be his accessory. I'm creating mine." And that's when Cam re-entered the scene. Whether you feel it was retribution, comfort, or just opportunity, Chrissy's connection with Camron wasn't a one-time rebound. According to court documents, there were 8 consecutive instances over 2 years where Chrissy reportedly met Cam secretly: hotel check-ins, private flights, unregistered dinner reservations, and that USB, that was just clip 1. Now Cam's legal team believes they have 2 more videos, including a recorded voicemail where Chrissy phones Mona Scott directly and says, "Cam can't know he'll use it. Please just make sure the footage is wiped." Oh, and don't forget Cam leaked. So you're surely wondering, where's Jim in all of this? He hasn't spoken a word publicly, but inside the courtroom, his silence was loud. Witnesses claim his hands were shaking beneath the table, that his lawyer offered him a stress ball, that he never made eye contact with Chrissy not once during her whole testimony. And honestly, how could he? This isn't just treachery, it's surgical sorrow. Your fiercest enemy become your girl's safe haven. That the man you previously toured with carried the secrets she wouldn't even discuss at home. And now the world knows. But hang on. Just as Chrissy's testimony wound up, the judge asked whether anybody else had. Cameron's lawyer came up, holding a brown folder, and delivered 7 words that caused everyone in the room to pause again. "We have more footage that is dated." Cameron's lawyer didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. Those 7 words were enough to flip the courtroom atmosphere like a breaker switch. "We have additional footage and it's dated." The judge didn't flinch. "Submit it to the clerk," he stated quietly. But you could hear the stress tighten his neck. The bailiff moved like he was escorting a bomb to the bench. And maybe he was, for, as the folder touched the judge's palm, everyone knew this wasn't just a Chrissy's blank gaze cracked just a bit as her lip trembled and her eyes dropped to the floor, as if she already knew what was in that envelope. Perhaps she recalled what she said on that recording. The judge unzipped the folder and brought out a USB. He glanced at both legal teams and said, "I want this played now, no delays." Cam's lawyer nodded Jim's. The lawyer did not protest, but Chrissy's attorney agitated, talking rapidly in her ear. She merely shook her head. "No, it's okay," she replied. "Let it play." The screen was brought down, and the projector. What happened next? Silence, then static, and then Chrissy in a studio. Trailer, hair wrapped, no makeup, sitting with someone off camera, calm, honest, and her voice keen. "I'm not dumb. I know Jim's loyal," she continues. "But loyalty doesn't solve boring. Cam makes me feel something. And Mona knows if this leaks, I'm out off camera." The other person answers, "It's Yandandy Smith, girl. You're playing with fire. You know Cam hates him. You get caught. It's not just a scandal. It's war." Chrissy sips her drink and says it, the statement that burnt a hole through the court. "I already got caught once when I talked my way out, but next time I won't lie." The screen goes black. The court freezes. Jim doesn't move. His lawyer looks like someone just took the oxygen out of his lungs. The judge is dead silent, and Mama Jones sobs. This wasn't the crazy, angry Mama Jones from before. "Heartache," she mumbled under her breath. She knew what she was doing. Chrissy simply sat there, hands folded, face blank, as if she'd already accepted her position in this narrative. But it wasn't over because the judge turned closer her and questioned, "Manan, are you speaking in this footage?" She nodded once. "Yes, sir," he asked again. "And this is from an unedited love and hip-hop trailer shot on set?" "Yes," she said this time without hesitation. Then the judge turned to VH1's legal representative. Yes, they were in the room now, sweating, scribbling, whispering into phones, and asked, "Why was this film not presented in the initial subpoena request?" The VH1 lawyer stuttered, "We were unaware it existed. It was filmed by an off-duty crew member and was not registered into our system." The judge arched an eyebrow. But Ms. Lannon and Miss Smith are plainly debating the possible repercussions of leaking material, and they both accept it exists in silence. You could feel the walls closing in on everyone. Camron still watching like it was a show he executive produced. Jim still unmoving, Chrissy still frozen in peaceful resignation. Then came the real kicker. Cam's lawyer rose up. "One more thing, Your Honor," he continued. "This is a voicemail dated 2 weeks before that footage given by Ms. Lampin to Ms. Scott Young." A file was played, and Chrissy's voice terrified, muttering, "Mona, I warned you if Jim finds out the whole season is wrecked. Cam can't know either. He'll use it. I need you to manage that room footage. Reggie swore it was erased. You promised the courtroom lost it." Murmurs. A guy in the gallery physically jumped up and yelled, "She used Mona as a fixer." The judge slammed the gavel order in the court. It took 3 minutes to get everyone quiet again, and once they were, the harm was already done. It wasn't just about cheating anymore. This was a cover-up, a manipulation of production, and an attempt to delete evidence during an ongoing legal process. VH1's lawyer appeared to be watching his career flash. Before his eyes, Jim rose up. No one anticipated it. His lawyer attempted to stop him, but he pushed him off. He stared straight at Chrissy. Everyone held their breath as he went forward 3 paces and calmly questioned her. Was any of this real? The question lingered in the air like smoke. Chrissy's lips parted. She blinked, and then she glanced down. Didn't utter a word. That quiet was louder than a slap. Jim nodded once, then turned and went back the table and sat down. His lawyer whispered something in his ear. Jim didn't respond, didn't flinch. Then suddenly he pulled out a document and presented it to his lawyer. The lawyer stood. "Your Honor, Mr. Jones would like to make a motion." Miss Lampkin was countersued for emotional anguish, deliberate deceit, and brand fraud. The court was taken aback. "You're filing now?" the lawyer said. But the courtroom wasn't done delivering surprises, because just as the judge was ready to depart for recess, a clerk walked in with a sealed package. "From Homeland Security," he muttered softly. Puzzled, Homeland. The judge opened it. Read it silently, then looked up face. Dead serious. "This court has been notified that Ms. Lampkin is also being probed for obstruction. Linked to an ongoing charity fraud case connected to the material described in prior hearings, Chrissy's attorney sprang up objection. "This is outside the scope of this case. The judge was not having it. We'll recess for 30 minutes. But we will confront this mess." Absolute mayhem. Mona Scott's team looked like they were about to vanish into thin air. VH1 spokesperson started gathering paperwork as if they were about to be subpoenaed themselves. And Cam simply grinned, since it wasn't about Jim anymore. It was the slow-motion explosion of a whole brand, one confession at a time. And that folder, that brown folder with more footage written on it, wasn't empty, because as the judge stood, Cam's lawyer handed over one more item, a text log from B, a burner phone registered to Reggie. The last text on the page read, "If the tape drops, she'll deny it. But I'm done protecting her. Let Cam have it." People did not leave the courtroom during recess. They paced, murmured, and gazed at Chrissy, as if she were a reality television villain who had just walked out of the screen. In real life, Jim Jones didn't look at anybody. Not the judge, not the press, not even Mama Jones, who sat behind him clutching a tissue like it was the final danger to her sanity. But Cam didn't blink, shift, or talk. Just sat. When court reopened, the tension was so dense that it felt like sound couldn't travel. The judge returned and laid down his documents and wasted no time. Court will now evaluate the final item, provided the text log discovered from a burner phone related with the guy, called Reggie. He read from the page carefully. She added, "If the clip drops, she'll deny it. But I'm done defending her. Let Cam have it. Let them all burn." Then came the second message, which the internet hadn't seen. Chrissy hoped it would be buried forever. "She used me to make Jim jealous. She claimed Dipset was finished. She wanted to feel strong for once. Cam treated her like a queen, and I was simply the cover. Gasps. A woman in the second row literally covered her mouth with both hands. Mama Jones broke down again, whispering, "Oh my God." And Chrissy still nothing. No tears, no outburst, no denial. The judge looked at her directly. "Manon, are you aware of these messages?" She nodded once. "I am. Do you dispute their content?" She paused, closed her eyes, and then whispered, "No." That's when Jim's lawyer spoke again, Your Honor. "With your permission, I'd also want to offer a contract signed by both Mr. Jones and Miss Lannon describing co-ownership of their planned Netflix documentary series. This deal covers brand equity clauses, emotional representation conditions, and exclusivity criteria that we now suspect were breached." The courtroom didn't breathe, because if that contract was true, and Chrissy broke terms while taping a show intended to be about their lifelong love, clearly this wasn't just emotional warfare, this was legal sabotage. The court glanced the contract and asked one question, Ms. Lampkin. "Were you involved with Mr. Giles, Mr. Camron during the preparation and advertising of this series?" Chrissy took a big breath and then spoke the statement that made this whole trial historic. "Yes, I was, and I knew if Jim found out, it would all come apart. The affair with Camron began before the series was proposed, before the trailer, before the reunion special, during which she sobbed about wanting to grow together. She lied on video in court, and to a guy who previously stated, 'Chrissy saved my life.' Jim didn't stand, didn't react. He just whispered, 'I knew it.' To no one in particular. Then he strolled out. No security, no publicist, no statement. A guy walking away from the ruins of a life he thought was genuine. The court called for a 5-minute pause, but for VH1, it was already too late. Within minutes of Chrissy's complete confession hitting the press, sponsors began dropping out. Emails were hacked, and screenshots from internal group discussions among producers appeared online. One message said, "Mona is ghosting everyone, and I believe she is done." Another read, "If this footage gets online, we'll looking at class action lawsuits." And then came the knockout. A former VH1 editor posted anonymously, "You don't understand. This wasn't simply a program. This was contrived anguish. Believe in love for the sake of camera angles." And Chrissy played along until she didn't have to anymore. By evening, the SARS Chrissy Confession hashtag had reached 7 million views, with clips of her testimony flooding TikTok, overlaid with sorrowful music, glitchy edits, and subtitles like, "She wanted fame, he wanted forever." Cam went live the same night in a black hoodie, minimum lighting, one phrase, "I warned you she wasn't made." He then logged off, and the clip accumulated 3 views. 2 million views in under an hour. Mona Scott eventually broke her silence with a 2-sentence press release. "I was unaware of Miss Lampkin's acts behind the scenes. I am helping with all legal inquiries coming forward." But no one believed her because now producers, assistants, and interns were crawling out of the woodwork pouring tea spilling. Emails showing deleted parts. One moment in particular is a removed clip from the Netflix series when Jim asks, "Chrissy point blank, do you still love me?" And she reacts more than anything. Now fans are alleging she looked left after she said that, like she was looking for a clue that it wasn't true. Even worse, the editor of that show admits they edited out the following phrase. Chrissy paused and muttered off camera, "I hope that's enough for now." That one remark altered everything. The love tale that characterized VH1's ride or die identity was no more. But a well-edited falsehood, Jim has apparently gone entirely offline. His team issued a statement stating he's not doing interviews. He's concentrating on healing treatment and safeguarding what's left of his serenity. As for Chrissy, there were no postings, headlines, or denials, just one somber Instagram story the night following the verdict, with a black backdrop and white lettering that said, "You can love someone and still break them." The internet wasn't having it. Comments came in delete this Jim deserved better. Cam exploited you. You allowed him in Cam. He's apparently struck a distribution agreement for a documentary series called The Footage They Tried to Bury in the Teaser Trailer. There is one Chrissy's face was frozen in mid-sentence with the words, "If this gets out, Jim's going to abandon me." Cut to black. Cam's voice, I discovered the conclusion of the trailer for the entire series. Releases next month, and VH1 remains mute because the court didn't simply hear a confession. The world did, and now no one is watching. The show there, witnessing the consequences. The last remaining question was is it ever real? Because in the end, no reality TV shows may write this type of heartache. No producer can save you. From receipts, the narrative is finished. The brand is gone, and the truth is out now, forever. Forever.